So, where I left off is one of those situations where, in order to advance the plot, you have to finish investigating you have to, like, investigate a certain number of things, or a certain subset of things. And once you do that, something new happens at one of your locations, or a new location opens up. Another example of this would be when I forgot to investigate the teacups in the previous case. Yeah, so I'm in that situation where I thought I investigated everything in the locations that were available to me, but nothing new happened. So I'm like scouring through the various locations I have on my docket and trying to check and see if I missed anything in any of them. Ironically, I did come off of a recording which went up a long time ago. So I know approximately when this is going to be uploaded, and it's far in the future. At the time, I'm recording a couple series that I'm uploading as I record them, and one of them is called Bionicle Paracosmos. I just finished recording an episode of that, where I got really, really stuck and couldn't figure out how to advance. And now I'm moving from that over to this game in a situation where I'm stuck and don't know exactly how to advance. So I'm not necessarily taking a break from that. Okay. It's very unlikely that this is the place I have to examine, because there's nothing really plot advancing in here. Can't investigate that in this situation. So I'm kind of wasting my time moving the reticle around the Shom suite. So, but whatever, it's just what happened to come up, so I just started off here, I guess. And that's it. Okay. So, legal consultancy, also very unlikely to be the thing I have to deal with. That's checked. It's about this paper. Oh yes, it's about the Great Exhibition. I'm so excited about it. Once you've done what you need to do, we should all go together and explore. I don't know, it sounds like it could be quite dangerous. We wouldn't want to get caught in an explosion as we're walking around in the showground. Oh, is that what you think's going to happen, is it? Okay, so I've done that just in case. We could do that probably in any area. That just doesn't advance the plot. I think I examined this enough. Yeah, we've checked both sides. So that's done. This should be all checked off. And also, anything in here probably does not advance the plot, because there's nothing, they probably didn't happen in here or anything, so this is kind of silly of me. Yeah, it looks like that's all checked off. So then we move to Chief Justice's office. Checked off both the converses. Is also silly because I know, like, there's nothing in here that would trigger plot advancement. I'm just doing this just to be, I don't know. So I've played enough video games to know, like, you don't ever discount anything, no matter how absurdly ridiculous it is. Okay. And so we did all the converses and all the examines. Let's do the present that we have. And that reminds me, have you seen this? The reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exhibition? Of course. No, not that. The story on the back page. What story? The Reaper attacked. Ah, that. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, have you not? Poor Mr. Reaper. What happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he? There's no need for concern. Lord Van Zykes would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you. Can you tell us what happened? I'd really love to know. Very well. It is if it interests you. It does, strangely. What, you don't like Van Zykes? Who doesn't like Van Zykes? There we go. Okay. Did get to how far in did I get? Was this 6 minutes in I managed to break the ice. So it wasn't that bad. Van Zykes' condition. Fortunately, Lord Van Zykes emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He is a very capable fighter. But that's incredible. They were armed with guns. Why was he attacked, though? Do you know? It relates to the events that occurred a month ago. A leader of one of the capital's criminal organizations was indicted and prosecuted by Van Zykes. Okay, so Van Zykes prosecuted somebody while we weren't there. But the man was acquitted. I have no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes. Large sums of money? A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday. But you're not suggesting that it was the work of the Reaper, surely? The victim's henchmen certainly seem to think so. He was a man by the name of Osman, Mr. Odiousman. Oh, that's why he's called Mr. Odious Man. Did you say Asman? So he's a really bad guy, okay. That's the man who died in the big explosion at the Great Exhibition. Yes. Known publicly as an investor, but in reality the head of a significant criminal organization. Unbelievable. I wonder, could I ask you something, Lord Strongheart? Try me. Why do you use Lord Van Zykes as a prosecutor? All the criminals who manage to get off in court then meet with mysterious ends outside the courtroom. And fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Lord Van Zykes first. I know there's no evidence that he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but still, something's clearly going on here. I have Van Zykes work for the prosecution service for 2 reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him. That doesn't make sense. How can you explain the way so many have died if not by someone's hand? Van Zykes may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer. So he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course. If I were writing this, I would make it so there would be no explanation for the mysterious deaths. That would just not be explained. Because that seems like the best way to go about this. Anyway. Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget. 11 hours late? That's quite something. That meeting had already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man. I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments and 223 reasons. Oh yes, where would I find Lord Van Zykes now? I would assume he's at his office. Right, I'll go and ask him about the attack in person. I want to get this straight from the horse's mouth. We know where his office is? Away with you now. I'm leaving Professor Harebrain's defense entirely in your hands. Oh, of course, yes. Thank you very much, my lord. There's a new pose for him, right? Long pause before the options come up. Well, Van Zyk's office, right? This is gonna be exciting. Of course the chess. Of course. Okay, yeah, so we have a big painting of somebody. I'll examine these things afterwards. I gotta examine all this stuff in here. Oh, this is the legendary Reaper's office. Yes, it appears so. Ugh, it sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere. Oh, is that... That doesn't look like Van Zyk's. That hooded figure was so still, I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is. What are you doing here? I guess it is Van Zyk's. He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well. I am. So, who's the person over by the wall being punished for something or other? No punishment is taking place here. Oh. That's my apprentice, and he's sitting there on his own free will. I didn't know you had an apprentice. He must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper. He's very able in combat, a requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage. Are you referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers? The Reaper? I'd be interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself. Assuming, that is, such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits our great courtrooms. Okay. Okay, it's all part of that cabinet. Look at that fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles neatly lined up there. My hallowed bottles are filled with the essence of the finest grapes from the finest vineyards I visit. And I personally oversee these chalices being made by the finest crystal craftsmen in the world. And yet you throw them around in court like they were worthless. Yes, because this imbecile is so unimaginably and repeatedly wide on the mark sometimes. Oh. Before you open your mouth next time, you should consider the poor artisans whose work you defile. So it's my fault? Silly me, how could I ever have thought otherwise? Lord Van Zykes' desk, look, it's so stylish. Oh. And that's a marble chess set beside it. Chess. That's the Western version of Japanese shogi game, isn't it? Well, I don't know about shogi. You know, I'm actually quite good at shogi problems. Oh, really? You probably like chess problems in that case. I'd love to challenge Lord Van Zykes sometime to a bout of shogi problems. If you only really want to challenge yourself, you could always do that on your own at home. To examine this. Okay, we can examine this big, like, model of the Grand Exhibition or something. Oh look, it's a scale model of the Grand Exhibition showground. That's amazing. I wonder why it's here. Perhaps he made it to take his mind off the sadness of being too busy to attend in person. What do you mean? He was there in person. Or perhaps he's too embarrassed to queue up for a ticket. He was there! Surely it's obvious that I'm using it as an investigative aid. You Nipponese have no business painting others as overly reserved. I really didn't think you'd overhear that. That portrait really dominates the room, doesn't it? Oh, it is Van Zyke. Okay. It's a very majestic outfit and pose, but sadly, whoever painted it didn't do a very good job of capturing Lord Van Zyke's facial features. Yes, you're right. I mean, it's not far off, but the artist has exaggerated his subject's handsomeness, I think. Ah, that reminds me. I heard Emperor Napoleon of France ordered artists to make him look more attractive when they painted him. How vain. That's really not an attractive quality in a person, is it? That portrait does not depict me. Surely that's immediately obvious. Oh, then who is it? So it does depict him? Is that what you're saying? Gotta examine the bats after we move over here. Wow, they were bats. Yes, the Reaper's familiars, I expect. But what about the mute man in the dark cloak? I thought he was the familiar. Just not the flying kind. He must be a dear friend of Mr. Reaper, then. I think the familiar idea is more likely. Scary, though, either way. Look at all those ancient casks lining the wall there. Casks in the Reaper's chamber. Or are they caskets? You don't think all those people who escaped conviction in court are lying inside them dead, do you? The insensitivity of this. What ridiculous notions are going through your head, man? This is my collection of fine vintages. Yes, of course. Thank you for clearing that up. Runa and I were just musing to ourselves. Don't mind us, Mr. Reaper. I wouldn't if you hadn't invited yourself to my office to talk nonsense within my earshot. Really looks like a punishment to me. I've never seen someone sitting like that before. He hasn't moved a muscle since we arrived. You think perhaps he's dead? If he were dead, Runo, he would be sitting up, would he? Well, anyway, dead or alive, he's not overly approachable, is he? I don't think he's going to talk to us. He's not dead. Okay, done with the entertaining and incredibly stupid stuff, where we talk about stuff in Van Zyke's room with him in earshot, like idiots. And actually talk to him. First, we have to present the armband. I know you've seen this around my arm before, but what is it exactly? It's the mark of a defense lawyer, in Japan at least. And what's your reason for showing it to a British prosecutor? Oh, well, I don't know, really? Because the fans told me to. No, I can understand at least. Either merit in reminding yourself of who helped you become what you are today. Oh, he knows. He knows about Kazuma, that is. But that's a personal matter, something you may want to keep close at all times, not something to flaunt. No, I suppose not. Thank you for understanding, though. And this. Lord Van Zykes, about the article in this paper. Ah, yes, it seems there was a reporter nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea I had been photographed. It was careless of me. It looks as though it was taken after the people who attacked you had run away, though. Rest assured, the police have already apprehended every last one of them. But there's someone else fighting alongside you, it seems. I think it's the same man who's sitting over there as we speak, isn't it? As I mentioned already, he's my apprentice. Perhaps you could tell us a little more about him. Okay. Lord Strongheart said that the assault last night was some sort of vengeance attack. True. Carried out by my henchmen of Odiousman's criminal organization. By henchmen, okay. The investigation meant their arrests were imminent. Presumably, some hoped to kill me before that happened. Odiousman. He's always masqueraded as one of London's most powerful financiers, a global investor. But his enormous wealth came to him by underhanded means, via his criminal activities. And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty when he found himself in court, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper. But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances. It was the most unusual cause of death. I know about that. It was super high voltage instantaneous kinesis gone wrong. Mr. Esmin died when the demonstration of the public experimentation stage ended in an enormous explosion. Correct. And you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that to happen, do you? Well, no, that does seem a little far-fetched. All you gotta do is sabotage the machine. If this man really is the fabled Reaper, then he has to be innocent of this particular death, at least. And he's innocent of the one of McGilden's death, too, because we know that, I forgot his real name, but the name he gave himself, Eggert Benedict, did it. So we don't know of any that he could have been. Could have perpetrated. Anyway, it's strange how this has worked out, isn't it, Bruno? I mean, what with you taking to the professor's defense for the trial tomorrow? What, you're going to be defending him? Yes, that's right. Though I barely know the man's name yet, to be honest. Albert Harebrain. That's right. Do you know him by any chance? Of course, I'm prosecuting him. Oh, that's how the story goes. He's a contemporary of mine. We were at university together. Your what? Okay. I understood that Professor Harebrain was from Germany, though. Harebrain's from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research, that's all. So you were students together. I was in the faculty of law, of course, and he in science, so our paths rarely crossed. But curiously, we got along, though I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you, of all people, representing him. Only if I make it out of this office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems. Yes, I know, because the prosecution will be handled by me. By you? Yeah, because we didn't have the budget to make sprites and animations behind the prosecutor's desk for another character. But you made it sound as if you and the professor have been friends. We are friends, it's true. Then why would you do this? Because the prosecutor's gotta prosecute. If the Reaper is the prosecutor, there's nothing anyone could do to save him. He's doomed. And you say that right in front of him. What's Lord Van Zykes thinking? What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean I'm a crowned prosecutor and immortal like any other? I'm no demigod. But they've all died, haven't they? The people you prosecuted, I mean? Whether or not the trial ended in a conviction or an acquittal. No, there's one that didn't. It was Soseki. So... what? Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People who without question deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them. But that's not true of Mr. Natsume, for example. He wasn't a vile wretch at all. Nor was Ginny, in fact. She's ever so hardworking now. I can't deny that since I encountered you, things have taken a turn. But the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hand of their own kind. It's not my work. Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way. But you are attacked by those ruffians because they believed it's true. The music fades out. The fact is, since people started to call me the Reaper of the Bailey, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially. Oh. It would appear that even the most hardened criminals can be made fearful for their lives. Do you mean to say... I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves a useful purpose, I adopt it gladly and with honor. But it's putting you in danger. You could be killed. If that is my fate, let God decide. Lord Van Zykes. He is my tutelage to become a prosecutor. So you could say he's my apprentice, I suppose. Ah, like you are to Hurley then, Runo. No, I don't remember taking an apprenticeship with the great detective. He's currently compiling a report about last night's attack. It looks like he's wearing some kind of mask. On Lord Strongheart's orders. Nobody knows the man's face, or indeed his identity. But why would he agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual? Lord Strongheart's orders again. He's not one for meaningless follies. There will be a good reason for his actions. I hope you're right. Operation Is that Kazuma? I mean, we checked his pulse, did we? He wasn't. Did we check his pulse? I mean, he was very dead, wasn't he? The reason why I said that is because I. If you have somebody whose identity is hidden with a mask or something, then it's not very exciting to write that he just turns out to be some character some brand new character. Usually in a mystery story, you make it such that he is a character you already know, so that it's like a big aha moment when it's revealed who he is and stuff starts to connect and make sense. So, when you see this, I tend to immediately think, okay, who could it be that I already know? Why is this guy in my court record? Oh, odious man. Okay. Um, and like the only thing we have is that chin and that like physique. He seems to have somewhat of a like a V tape, like kind of a Kazuma like physique and a Kazuma like bottom of his face. And he's apparently really good in combat. So that's why you would think it's Kazuma. The problem is that Kazuma's dead. But I, fictional character's death means nothing. Ah, the task is complete. Good. In that case, you can collate all the reefs. He obviously does not speak, because that would reveal who he was too, because it would be in his voice. Nice to meet you. Back to work again. That was really strange, though. I've never met the man before. I didn't even know he existed, and yet somehow it didn't feel like our first encounter. Well, okay, so that's Kazuma somehow. Somehow Kazuma's not dead. Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside this office. Lord Stronghart has strictly forbidden it. Oh, I see. Why are you so interested in my apprentice anyway? Oh no, I mean... Sorry, I didn't mean to... It's just really weird to somebody, though, Van Zykes. The way he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture. It couldn't be. Okay, so I'm trying to make it hard, okay. Oh yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Oh, what's that? That Nipponese man, is he faring well? Sorry? The one arrested twice in succession 6 months ago, with the stoop, and the mustache, and the jitters. Ah, Mr. Natsume, you mean? I'm not sure he'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, Runo. He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post only the other day. I see. Well, I think we can end our discussion there, don't you? There's a little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you to spend it investigating the case. Yes, thank you for the advice, and for the conversation. I can't believe he's asking after Soseki-san. After a Nipponese. I'm not sure whether to feel happy about that or worried. Never imagined that Mr. Reaper would be friends with a mad scientist, did you? That's a turn up for the books. Mad scientist. Oh, you mean Professor Hairbrain. Yes, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship with Lord Van Zykes, I think. Yeah, does that that checks off all the verses, right? I'm going to see if new dialogue showed up for The Apprentice. No, it didn't. Cool. We have to go to prison now. I understand Lord Van Zykes is a friend of yours from your university days. Yes, that's right. He was studying law whilst I was studying science. What was he like back then? A good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, and all-around nice fellow, really. Sorry, I think you misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor, Barak Van Zykes. What was he like when he was at university? Talk about a leading question, Runo. As I said, an unassuming and extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he is the little darling of the Van Zykes family with all its great aristocratic origins. I didn't realize he had quite such noble blood. Little darling. It was a bit of a shock when I came back to Britain and learned what he'd become. The Reaper of the Bailey, no less. Yes, that's right. I did hear, though, that there was a big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation. Really? What sort of event? Ah. I'm sorry. But I don't know anymore. It wasn't in the country I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany already. Oh, yes, of course. If he's heard all about the Reaper, I really don't have the heart to tell him that Lord Van Zykes will be the prosecutor in court tomorrow. It's just gonna come as a surprise to him. So, Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I've understood you properly. The huge explosion that occurred yesterday, that was an accident, you're saying? You had no intent to harm the victim, who was in fact the sole investor in your work, is that correct? As correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear. Yes, it's true that the man perished in a machine of my invention. So I know that I'm far from blameless in all this. But still, I would never use my discoveries, my inventions, to take a person's life. Not in a centillion years. I'm a man of science, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. Do you believe me? Do you believe in my hypothesis? Science is the pursuit of truth, you know. I've always believed that all my life. This guy's silly. But again, the thing, most characters in this game are silly. I'm afraid I don't know much about science, or your theories, but what I do know is that I love you. But I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learned something very important. Nationality, class, lineage, none of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything. Thank you for that, Professor. And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court. Alright, Runo. It's time. Time to visit the Great Exhibition. Sorry? Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it? Yes, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate at last. The showgrounds are a little too big for my liking. We've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours now, and I felt myself swooning 3 times. There are a lot of people, aren't there? I've always been trodden on 3 times. I've almost been trodden on 3 times, too. Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. We finally made it through the throngs, though, by the look of it. We are here underneath the public experimentation stage where the explosion happened yesterday. What's that? I can hear voices from on the stage. Sounds like an argument. Of course. I don't know why I said of course there. I would not have guessed this. It's like, this is complete. I said the complete opposite of what I meant. Right, I've had it with you this time. I warn you, I'll arrest you in a minute. Oh yeah, go then, Inspector. Give it a shot. You ain't got no evidence and you know it. Wait, I know those voices. You've got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady. But a night in the cells will teach you some manners. It hasn't before. Just try it, I dare ya. If you want that bag of chips rammed down your throat. Yoo-hoo! Ooh! Ooh! Gregsy, what are you doing up there? It's you, here, you're here. Here you are. Your ladyship. How are you, your ladyship? I hope you're doing well, your ladyship. I have like a seed penetrating my sock. Does that make her 3 times a lady? I'm not well at all. It's far too busy everywhere. I wanted to ride a balloon, but there was a 3-hour queue. Unbelievable. I'll go and have a word for you at once, your ladyship. You'll be flying as high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you. Oh, we have to introduce him. Tobias Gregson is an inspector at Scotland Yard. Until recently, he was suspended from duty, but it would appear he's back in action now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And for that reason, he can't say a word wrong to the story's author, Iris. But there are limits, surely. Or there should be. Watch it, sunshine. Sorry. What gives then? Don't tell me you're on this case. Yes, I'm acting for the defense. So we're here to investigate. Dear me, that's the situation, is it? Is it really that troubling? Measly 5 bob, is that all you got? You're a lawyer, ain't ya? You could stand to carry a bit more copper around your pockets, Mr. Naruto. Hey, that's my last bit of spending money, that is. You can have it back, but I'll have to charge you for all the bother. 3 bob. They made it question marks, just in case you had played the first game. This is Gina Lestrade, a pickpocket or diver, born and bred in the East End of London. Dressed slightly nicer than before. The case that led to my own suspension 6 months ago. This is the young girl I was defending in court. What's your problem, Odo? Diver, pickpocket? What's with all the name-calling? You want a bag of chips rammed down your throat and all, do ya? I thought you were proud to be a diver, Gina. You were just arguing with Inspector Gregson about it, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricks here at the showground. That ain't no way to talk to a lady, Odo. Half a year's a long time, people can change. I'm an apprentice now, learning to be a Scotland Yard detective. So you'll have to call me what everyone else does. It's Inspector Lestrade now. Well, we're becoming canon. Was Inspector Lestrade a man in Sherlock Holmes? Maybe I was like mistaken. Like it doesn't actually say. Like that's interesting. Anyway, Inspector. That badge is homemade, surely. The inspector part isn't entirely accurate. No one calls her that. For what it's worth, anyway. Investigation is off the cards for all of us. What's that supposed to mean? Right, well, I'll be back on top, up top. You hold the fort down here, alright? Right, sir. This raises a lot of questions. These stairs obviously lead to the stage above. We should go up there and investigate the exact spot where the experiment was being conducted. That was not intentional. So that's it, is it? The machine that blew up. Oh, it must have been a magnificent explosion, and I've seen my fair share. You've seen things like this before, you mean? Of course, Hurley's always doing experiments that end in a bang. In fact, in his own words, explosions are the very essence of chemistry. It's only really half the essence. There are also endothermic reactions. Ah, that might explain the smell of burning that frequently comes wafting up the stairs. One time, he made something that exploded with such force it took the roof off the building. I wish you'd been there to see it, Runo. It's hard to get too excited about that, given that I now live in the roof. Well, anyway, that's enough about that. Time to investigate. Oh, look, Inspector Gregson is over there. He seems to be deep in thought about something, whilst eyeing up the machine carefully. Really? He just looks confused to me. Okay, let's go back and do... Can I get back down? I can save my game, no. No. Is there a way to get down off the stage? What is that gigantic thing over there? It looks like an enormous water wheel. Oh, that's just a Ferris wheel. There'll be people riding inside this little cabins you can see. Why? Well, they rotate nice and slowly, so it's a wonderful way to see the surrounding scenery. Wait, it's turning? But it looks completely still. Yes, that's because it's turning so slowly. One complete revolution takes about half an hour. So you are mad enough to go in one, it would be more fun to whiz around fast, don't you think? I feel as though you might have just invented a new sort of ride here, Runo. It really can't move. Fine. There are all sorts of strange buildings here in the Great Exhibition Grounds, aren't there? I seem to remember something similar being exhibited in Japan one time. Oh, in your country, Bruno. I do wish I could go and see it. I present a particularly steely samurai with a present of one of Hurley's stories I'd written especially. Let's see if I couldn't get Hurley into a jam against some Bartitsu master ninjas. You might not find as many of those sorts of people around as you think. Oh, well, that's dull. Oh, but I know a prosecutor with a Crone Mage top knot I could introduce you to. A Crone Mage, really? Do you think I could have a picture taken with him? Do you? Assuming he's recovered from the trim Kazuma gave him a year ago. Yes. Ah, little do you know, Ryan Isuge. He hasn't. It ripped itself apart magnificently, didn't it? Magnificently and mercilessly, as someone stands in the middle of the machine to be disassembled and be beamed to the air. Yes, beamed. Not blasted. That's the point. Yes, that part's crucial, really. Is something like that even possible, though, Iris? Oh, Runo, I'm just a child. How would I know? Child when it suits you, you mean? From what I can tell, I think if you were to pull this lever here... Stop! Don't touch that! Ah, that was practically instantaneous kinesis the way you flew over just now, Gregsy. Please, your ladyship. I didn't mean to startle you, but I can't let you touch anything up here. Ah, sorry, you can have some of my latest special blend to make up for it. Glug. Ah, wonderful. This stuff really is wonderful. It's just like old times, this is. Representing Professor Hairbrain in court tomorrow, Inspector. So we should be allowed to examine the scene. Ah, listen, Sunshine. I'm not allowed to touch anything up here. It's that blasted special dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act to blame. It's driving me potty. Ah yes, that special dispensation. The professor mentioned that too. More red tape's all we need. I do know what the government thinks it's playing at sometimes. But we're allowed to just look, aren't we? Surely that's alright, isn't it, Gregsy? Of course, your ladyship. Anything you say, your ladyship, but please don't get your dainty hands dirty, will you? Don't worry. We wouldn't dream of touching anything, would we, Runo? She really knows how to get what she wants. Using high volt. So, apparently I just hopelessly missed some potential dialogue with Miss Lestrade. And there's no way I can get it back, because I happened to examine the wrong thing first. Using high voltage electricity to somehow disassemble a man's body, and then beam him across the crystal tower. It's an extraordinary thing to attempt, especially in public. Yeah, I would have attempted it with an inanimate object first. Like a nuclear bomb. True, it was by far the most unusual of experiments planned for the exhibition, mind. To be honest, I'm a bit surprised it was allowed. Carrying out something so dangerous with so many spectators present, I mean. The government's doing everything it can to promote new science and technology at the moment. They're more worried about being ahead of the game than the odd spot of public safety infringements. If they can be the first to develop some new technology, it makes Britain more powerful in the future, you see. Yes, I suppose that's true, in a way. So the powers that be are placing heavy emphasis on scientists' rights at the moment. What sort of rights? They're making it so that any theories of the brains have remained their legal property, as it were. Right through developing it into a practical idea and even going into production. Which is the infuriating reason us coppers aren't allowed to touch this crime scene. Because the new highfalutin special dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act forbids it. Ah, I see now. The only people with permission to investigate here are from some brand new department at the yard. The Forensic Investigation Team, it's called. They've been regulated to keep in guard. The Forensic Investigation Team. The old fool can see that this heap of scrap metal was a slam to begin with. But just because it says scientific equipment on the paperwork, we can't do a flaming thing with it. Poor Gregsy. He's very head up, isn't he? Find me again. What's this new legal act that means we're not allowed to touch the scene here? Are you having me at it, Sunshine? It's the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Yes. I think Hurley mentioned that recently, with a real twinkle in his eyes, I remember. I'm sure it did, your ladyship, I'm sure it did. Passed especially for this great exhibition it was. All scientists have to do is present their ideas or inventions to some suits in the civil service. And it gets rubber stamped that it's a guarantee of rights to maintain the invention's confidentiality. What does that really mean? Think about it. Think of all the world-changing new inventions on display every day in this exhibition. Although a good half of them are a load of cobblers, if you ask me, put forward by shammers like yourself. Thanks for that. Oh, I love how absurd some of the inventions here are. It's all so fun. It might be fun to you, but a member of the force has to be present at every single demonstration. Can you imagine, Hang science, that's what I say! Hang science, that's what I say. Tobias Gregson, 2022. Oh, I don't think so. That sounds like my dream job. You'd soon think otherwise after spending a day guarding all these shammers' bogus contraptions. But if they're all bogus, how can anyone hope to demonstrate them? There'd be no point. Yeah, well... theirs is a point, sadly. Sorry. Thanks to another of our government's bright ideas. It's one of those moments where it's like... that would be what the title of this, like, recording would be on YouTube, would be Hang Science. But the likelihood that I'll remember that is very slim, and I'm not going to watch through all of these episodes all over again to find when I mention these things. So the probability that it's actually Hang Science is pretty low. Sorry, I got a cough. If any theory or invention is deemed to show potential, the government hands out a research grant. Scientist gets funding? Exactly, and that's what they're all after. All these shammers coming from far and wide to clog up Hyde Park. And who has to keep them all safe, Who has to smile politely and welcome them? Us coppers, that's who. So you can see why I say it now, can't you? Hang science! Hang it! Oh, maybe I can see your point. Apparently, Professor Hairbrain lives and works in Germany now, conducting his research. That's right. Come back to Britain especially for the Great Exhibition, as I understand it. Probably after one of the government's research grants. Actually, we learned something else about the professor earlier today. About his time in further education. It turns out he was at university with someone we both know. Lord Van Zykes. What's that? That's news to me. But if Van Zykes mans the prosecution, then as the accused, the professor's fate is sealed because the Reaper will get him one way or another? Believe me, that man's beyond me. I do know what goes on in his head at the head of his. Talking of Van Zykes, this morning's paper ran the story of him being attacked. Read that? Oh yes, but Mr. Reaper is completely fine. Nothing to worry about. Yes, right. Glad to hear it. Still the Reaper, huh? How long is that business gonna keep up, I wonder? Wow, they're really digging into this whole who is the real Reaper thing. Victim in this case, the investigator, Mr. Esman. He was another of the Reaper's victims, or so I heard. Lord Barak von Zykes is a top-class prosecutor, but even he can't always push the right verdict through. Sometimes justice can't win. Yes, I've heard about jurors being bribed and evidence being falsified. And that's how the notion of the Reaper of the Bailey came about, isn't it? Obviously, Scotland Yard suspected Van Zykes initially. We all assumed he was taking matters into his own hands if he failed to seal the deal in court. Although the man himself denies that charge. Well, we've done a very thorough investigation, and the conclusion we reached is that Lord Van Zykes is in no way related to the deaths of those people outside the courtroom. There's no question in my mind, I'd stake my reputation on it, I would. But if that's true, then how do you explain it? All those defendants could just have coincidentally died if nobody killed them. Well, this is something called fiction. I know that, but I can't explain it. It's a mystery after all, isn't it? That's the whole point of the Reaper. Professor Harebrained mentioned something else. He said that at university, Lord Van Zykes was a totally different person, easygoing and kind. You what? He said that it was after they both graduated that something happened to change the man. Do you have any idea what it was? No clue. Really? Look, I've got my hands full watching over this frustrating crime scene. Why don't you go and make a nuisance of yourself elsewhere, eh? Inspector, have you read this paper? Yeah, 2 unwelcome blasts back to back. This one at the exhibition, and the Reaper getting attacked. I know, the terrible news to wake up to, wasn't it? I tried to pretend I hadn't read it and turned over for another 40 winks. Thanks to that, I was laid up and got a roast in front of the super. Some mornings are like that, aren't they? Okay. Considering how badly damaged everything is, Professor Harebrained was lucky to escape unscathed, I'd say. We should have a good look around the machine while we can, I think. Touch anything and I'll make sure I'll kill you before I get strung up myself, you hear? I won't touch a thing, I promise. So please, spare a thought for your digestion. Anyway, do you really think this machine could actually disassemble people like the professor claims? He asks, looking totally incredulous. Give it a rest, sunshine. If we were allowed to examine all this bleeding scrap metal, maybe we could answer that question. But we can't, can we? Because of the annoying rules, you mean? Exactly! The annoying obstructive flaming rules! Oh, look at the base of the machine there. Oh yes, there's a tool of some kind poking through the wire mesh. It's a screwdriver, I think. Oh, isn't it a lovely one? The handle is the shape of a capital letter A. Is it? Oh yes, you're right. What's the matter with you? Don't touch anything, I said. Touch anything and I'll make sure I'll kill you before I get struck up myself, I said. Yes, I understand, sorry. I only touched it a teeny weeny bit. Well, Gregsy, I'm very curious about the screwdriver. Very, very curious. Of course, your ladyship. You're so clever, your ladyship. Fancy spotting something like this. But I'm afraid I can't let you have it. Haruno found it first. I assure you, I'll investigate it thoroughly. He is gone off with it. That was very mean, I'm afraid. Inspector Gregson is going to make a very clumsy and embarrassing mistake in next month's installment now. Poor Gregsy. I don't know what W&T is. The amazing horn-shaped device is pointing towards the crystal tower. I suppose once people are disassembled by the machine, they're shot out of that thing to wherever they're going. I don't think it is supposed to shoot anything, Runo. It was set up to beam people to the Crystal Tower, where they'd be reconstructed in their original form. Well, I don't like the look of it. If it was as amazing as it looks, the accident wouldn't have happened in the first place, of course. I suppose that's true, yes. But nothing ever goes according to plan, does it? So the A stands for Asman. I have to investigate this. So those are people-carrying balloons, dangling silently in the skies over London. I always thought the day would come when humans would discover how to fly, but I never imagined it would involve them being suspended from colorful, floating, timbery handballs. I'm sure it must feel amazing being up there among the clouds. Let's take a ride together, Runo, please. If I'm being perfectly honest, I would like to try it. But without a cast iron guarantee that the thing will plummet to the ground, I'm too scared. Oh well, in that case, I should tell you what Hurley said. It's physically impossible for a flying balloon to plummet to the ground, as long as it doesn't explode. Yes, call me crazy, but I think that exploding part might play on my mind a little. Okay. I'm gonna try, like, doing, like, moving somewhere and then moving back. Okay. Now, does this work? Yeah, it does, okay. They should have made a way to, like... Oh, that's... Crystal Tower. It's certainly an apt name. It was built by to be the focal point of the exhibition, and it definitely is, being so tall and with all that glass. I can't imagine a building like this ever being erected in Japan. There are lots of exhibits inside the tower as well, apparently. Of course, there's an observation deck, but there's also an art gallery, a zoo, and a museum. But I heard you have to queue for 3 hours just to get through the doors. Well, at the moment, the shattered glass from the failed experiment may well be the biggest draw. And thanks to that accident, the whole tower is shut. Suddenly, it's not the Crystal Tower anymore, but the Crystal Glass Shower. Apparently, everyone's taking to the skies now to look down on the disaster area from above instead. But there's a 3-hour queue to go up in a balloon now. Londoners must be very patient people. I mean... graphics card buying queues. Months long. Okay, it looks as though somebody dropped something behind the tree just here. Dropped or hid. What's this? Some sort of part of the machine that exploded? Maybe it could have fallen from the platform above in the blast, perhaps. It looks like a giant corkscrew, like giant thing that you use to pop the cork. What's going on here? Oh, nothing. I think I'll hang on to this just in case. The mysterious contraption has been entered into the court record. It's wind up. Well, it's kind of like a crossbow. Oh, there's some sort of lever here. Wait, what is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing, too. It's like, don't let Gina get a hold of this. It looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. You must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device then. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. Oh, I really had no idea what I was picking up when I spotted this at the exhibition grounds. So wind-up crossbow, so you don't have to, you don't have any strength, you don't need the strength, which is convenient. And it's like, it's both strike 9 and crossbows. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. If we actually get arrows with strike 9 on the tip, oh dear. So I was right, it's a sort of bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. In fact, if I had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyudo archery training. Okay. For some reason, the ground is damaged in this spot. Look. Almost as if there was a fire here or something. Yes, if you look closely, there's some scattered ash and burnt embers too. Well, I suppose there was a big explosion just above here. People probably wouldn't bat an eyelid if a small fire like this would have been. I'm not so sure we English are quite that laid back, Runo. Oh look, what's this? A ripped piece of cloth? It's not like any fabric I've ever seen before. It's very thick and stiff. It looks extremely durable. Is this like Gore-Tex? It's canvas, I think, with some sort of rubber backing. And the edges appear to be a bit charred as well. Maybe that means it had something to do with the explosion. Let's take a note of it while Guinea's mid-yawn. Looks like a layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. Yeah, I don't know what this would be, like a mod mat? I've never seen anything like it before. But applying Mr. Sholmes' methods, you might do so as part of a raincoat worn by someone who really didn't want to get wet. And the charring might have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Or maybe not. Oh, I should be able to guess what that is, but I didn't. Okay. Can't investigate the Union Jack. I've been meaning to ask you for a while now, but what are those funny round? Okay, we can investigate on this. I'm not gonna like read this. Oh, what? I've read about situations like this in a magazine about strange phenomena. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now. What are those funny rounded blobs in the sky? Okay. Oh, they're the flying balloons I've been talking about. I want to go up in one so much. Creatures from outer space coming in round flying objects to attack Earth. What? I suppose inhabitants of other planets are bound to be interested in the great exhibition. This is it, Iris. It's happening! It's not. Don't worry. I'll explain it all to you later over a nice cup of tea, Runo. Gina, would you take a look at... Oh, where did it go? Hey, looking for this, Odo? Why'd she do that? I wonder if you've gotten anything else to show me, eh? What do you reckon? Give that back first, please. Well, she doesn't have any presents. This one any different? This armband is proof, in Japan at least, that I'm a defense lawyer. And this badge is proof that I'm a detective. So you're not gonna have to start calling me. You're gonna have to start calling me Inspector Lestrade. In that case, you'll have to start calling me, well, anything but Odo. I would call you Defender Nara Odo if you like, but it don't really tip off my tongue. No, it doesn't have a great ring to it, does it? Oh, this is just a... I have to do the background thing. It was 8 months ago now that I first encountered Gina in connection with the case I was working on. At the time, she was living in the East End with a group of other orphans. She helped all of them survive by pickpocketing, but then she got embroiled in a murder. I had a lot of time to think in prison. I realized I couldn't go on like I was. The dive-in weren't working out. Oh, I'm pleased to hear again. Oh, well done. So, you went from being a pickpocket to a detective? You got it. Good. Ain't it? Inspector Lestrade. Sounds like something out of a book, eh? That's meta. Yeah, and what makes it, like... The thing that doesn't work about that is... Iris wrote The Hound of the Baskervilles before Gina decides to call herself Inspector Lestrade. So it's either she predicted the future, or she just reused the name and it happened to just by chance match. Talk about a sea change. I think doesn't Lestrade though appear in another in like another one of the novels as well. But whatever. And then there's Iris's old man to think about. Iris's father, you mean? Yeah, I promised there, didn't I? I said I'd get all the police forces around the world to pull out all the stops looking for him. Just a small promise then, nothing serious. Oh, Guinea, you're so sweet. It's like Bruno's standing there knowing that he's dead. So anyway, that's how come I had to go at the test for Scotland Yard. Only trouble is I don't really read so well, do I? Just a small problem, nothing serious. Is this like a callback to, what's her face? Emma Skye had a hard time passing the forensic investigator test, which made no sense considering that how enthusiastic she was about it. You'd think she'd also be really good at it. Like the whole point was that she was good at it, but she couldn't pass the test. Maybe because what was in the test was completely irrelevant or something. And that's when Hurley approached Gregsy and asked for help. Till the inspector said he'd take full responsibility for Guinea and made her sort of an apprentice. That was very magnanimous of Inspector Gregson and brave. Well, you know, Hurley, he enjoys finding ways to make people do what he wants. The great detective likes digging for dirt, in other words. So, the long and the short of it is, if you've got questions about the case, you can ask Inspector Lestrade. Right then, Inspector. Actually, there's still a big mystery surrounding Gina, isn't there? Oh, what, Runo, what? Well, 6 months ago, Gina was the defendant in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper. A trial in which she was found not guilty, and yet here she is still. Come on, you're not still on that, are you? The Legend of the Reaper or whatever it's called? I don't half worry, Odo. If I didn't half worry, then probably wouldn't be a whole lot you left. Well, Kazuma resurrected from the dead, so can you, Inspector Lestrade. It's like I told you before, innit? The Reaper's kinda like I'm upstairs, so he knows what I'm like on the inside. That I ain't really done nothing wrong. The Angel of Death? So, nothing wrong might be stretching a point. Remember something somebody I know very well said. Eventually you'll get to meet the Death Angel. Does he have a personality? What about Mr. Natsume in Japan? He's perfectly fine, isn't he? Well, that's true. Perhaps the Reaper is more discerning than I thought. Exactly. So I ain't worried. I'm totally fine. Everybody's saying exactly now. Wait, was there no, like, accent in that? Oh, there's an 8. Okay. Poor. It was out of this world, it was. The brainy bloke pulled a bunch of levers in on a machine and suddenly it started blowing smoke. Billowing smoke. Then it just went pop. I ain't seen a better explanation here yet. Sorry? You mean you saw it, Guinea? With your own eyes? Yeah, of course. The boss is in charge there, ain't he? Of keeping everything running smooth, I mean. The boss being Inspector Gregson, I suppose. That's going to take some getting used to. So all you have to say is that I'm on duty and I can do whatever I want to. Get this, I was up in one of the flying balloons when it happened, watching it from above. No, you're so lucky, Guinea. Maybe I should join Scotland Yard too. Yeah, do it. You know how to put the boss in his place already, right, Iris? You have no trouble at all. Then it's settled. When do I start? Oh, no. You can't join Scotland Yard, Iris. Well, see, anyway, what I don't understand is this. If the machine exploded so spectacularly, how could Professor Bunnybrain still be claiming that his experiment was a success? Alright. Well, it was a success, in a way. It was. How can it have been? The guy was disassembled. Surely after the whole machine blew up, no one could call the experiment a success. It's like I said, it did sort of work. I mean, yeah, there was a load of smoke and all that whopping great bang. But where do you think they found the victim's body, eh? In the Crystal Tower over there. What? In the tower? Oh, they're gonna seriously do this? You can see for yourself, can't you? It's there above the scaffold. Oh, where the glass is broken, you mean? Yeah, the cage with the victim got in to start with. Really did get beamed through the air or whatever and landed all the way over there. So, you see, it did kind of work, didn't it? So what I'm getting out of this is it exploded and the explosion shot the person through the glass. And that just happened to be the same trajectory as if it were beamed by the beam thing. What? I don't believe it. I mean, I don't get the ins and outs of it, but anything's possible, right? With science. Oh, I tell you what. You can have this. It's a plan of the experiment they drew up at the yard. Are you sure? Yeah, go on. I had 3 bob off you before, so fair's fair. Yeah, yes, I didn't actually give that to you, did I? Cool. Why are there balloons in the sketch? Something Inspector Gregson said before seemed a little strange. For what it's worth, anyway, investigating is off the cards for us all of us. Yes, naughty old Gregson ran off after that without explaining himself. Oh, right, that. The boss said no one's allowed to investigate that weird machine that what blew up yesterday. Well, that's not fair. We're representing the defendant. In that case, could you at least tell us what you've learned from your investigations? Nah, you're not getting it. We ain't allowed to investigate either. Why? What did the boss call them again? The Forensic Investigation Team, I think. Anyway, apart from them lot, no one's allowed to lay a finger on the scene. Bit funny, innit? So even Scotland Yard's own detectives can't investigate. Yes, I've never heard something like that before. I thought I could have a gander at the quiet, though, but the boss caught me at it. You probably heard him. Okay, so quiet, I presume, is quiet and shy, which rhymes with guy, but why is he personifying the thing? You probably heard him giving me an earful about it before from down here, didn't you? Oh, okay. Oh, on the quiet, okay. Oh, she means like on the sly. Okay, I get it now. I read it wrong. But not bleeding fair. I think you were giving him as much of an earful back as if I remember it. Yeah, well, sometimes I think it's all them chips what make him so stubborn. You say something to him, Odo? Go on, see if you can get through to him. He's up on the platform above us, is he? Where the machine that exploded is. We can try, can't we, Runo? Grexy will listen to us. This anti-chronological order is very bothersome to me. Oh, why isn't Disney sued over that outfit? Okay. Let's go back. What? Oh. This is back when the British used feet. But soon you'll have been in London a year, Runo. It's time you got used to our measurements. Yes, well, this thing is so tall, the spectators at the front would just have seen a wall and nothing else. They probably thought they'd secured the best spot to watch from, only to be disappointed. There's a saying in Japan, the darkest spot is right under the lighthouse. I feel like it probably applies here. Wow, that wasn't actually like a travel. Interesting. Okay, how are we not done? We already did this, right? Yeah, we already did this one. You got all the converses. So yeah, the only thing we could be missing is an examine. hate this situation. Van Zykes. I think he's ignoring you, Runo. The prosecution and the defense should avoid speaking outside of the courtroom as a rule. So as anyone is being rude here, it's most certainly the man in black there standing before us. Oh, I see. Well, thank you for setting the record straight. Did you see that? He spoke to me, Runo. So Lord Van Zykes, have you managed to visit the Great Exhibition yet? He's definitely ignoring you. Right, no niceties either then. Huh. Okay. Nothing new here. They give me that little, like, date and time if there's something new. Okay. So it's something we missed at the, experimentation stage. Got all the converses. Okay, this one doesn't highlight because it's a move. Oh, of course. That's where the cove ended up after an instant kinesis, or whatever they call it. Dead, of course. And yet they're calling the experiment a success. What's the wooden scaffolding there for? The coppers. Our lads set that up after the incident happened. To get the body down, I think. No, really? Didn't you help to erect the scaffold then? Nah, lookout duty's more my thing. Wandering around the exhibition and keeping a lookout for the fun stuff. Mind Gregson doesn't hear you saying that, or he'll give you the boot. It's incredible, though, isn't it? I mean, could the victim really have bridged that gap by some sort of invisible kinesis? Runo, listen. What is it? I've been thinking. Hurley might know something, mightn't he? What about? About Mr. Reaper. About what happened to Lord Van Zykes, you mean? Because it sounds like something very significant occurred after he graduated from the university. Something that completely changed his life. Maybe, but I have no idea where to find Mr. Sholmes at the moment. He's in the middle of some big case, isn't he? Here, this is what you need. What's this, some kind of entrance ticket? Madame Tuspells. Is this supposed to mean something to me? You don't know it? It's the most popular attraction in London at the moment. It's very close to Baker Street, actually. We should go now if you like. No, we don't have time for visiting attractions today. I risk we have a big trial tomorrow. But that's where Hurley is. What? At this popular London attraction? Yes. How is it you know where he is? Hurley told me, but he told me to keep it a secret from you, Runo. Madame Tuspells. Doesn't see how it could be related to the case we're investigating here, but then... stranger things have happened, and then, when they happen, Mr. Sholmes is usually at the heart of them. What's this? Uh-huh. Well, you could do a lot of stuff with this. What is this place? Look at these terrifying scenes. Oh, but why are the people still... It's like an opera written by Mozart. Guillotines, ruthless murderers. I know what I'll be dreaming about tonight. It's like Elizabeth. They're all wax models. They're amazingly realistic, aren't they? What do you think, Runo? Shocked? Wax models? Ah. I read about dead bodies in wax once, and is a magazine about strange phenomena. Depending on how corpses are kept after death, parts of them can turn to wax, apparently. It's called a adipoker. Stop talking about creepy things like that, Runo. You're scaring me. Anyway, adipoker doesn't form readily, you know. It's only in very specific... Ah. What now? I've just remembered something else I read in another magazine about strange phenomena. There was an old lady, maybe a witch, who used to pour molten wax over corpses and put them on display. None of these exhibits in here are real. They're all entirely man-made replicas. It can't be. Do you really expect me to believe that? Just look at them. Oh. There's no way anybody can make models of people that are this realistic. Correct. And they're all such gruesome scenes. Wait. What is it? Oh, no. I must be seeing things. We'll examine Mr. Sholmes last. Got the tub to fill with blood. Is this some famous murderer? Yes, called Jane the Ripper. All her victims were young women. So like Jack the Ripper, but like a woman. I knew it. You can tell by the way she's holding that knife. Sure sign of a murderer. I think they've kind of figured out who Jack the Ripper... They have good guesses about who Jack the Ripper is. They don't know for certain, but there's good guesses, and they're all men. Well, yes. Ah. What's the matter, Runo? I've worked it out. I know what she's doing. She's trying to fill that bathtub with blood so she can have a soak in her victim's gore. Not according to the information about the exhibit on the little board here. It doesn't mention anything about the bathtub. Really? That's just there to make you think that. Sorry, I don't think it's significant. Then why is it part of the thing? I still think it has to be there for a reason. There's like a Camelot song about that, about bathing in the blood of virgins or something. The big heavy curtain is in a very prominent position, isn't it? I have a nasty feeling there's going to be something truly terrifying behind it. Oh yes, that's the famous Tuspel special exhibit. It depicts one of England's most notorious killers. Do you want to pay the extra fee to have a look? Pay more money to be even more terrified? Oh, let me think about that for a moment. It was only a suggestion. Is this an arm? It looks like an arm, doesn't it? Maybe one of the waxwork models has fallen over. You don't think it could be the work of one of the mass murderers in here, do you? Bruno, stop scaring me. It's a wax arm, or a real one. Come on, you're always pointing that finger up yours in court. Poke that arm now and see how it feels. Oh. Wow, that was a really unfortunate reading wrong. Wow, that finger of yours. Objection. Those models are so well made, I can't tell what's a waxwork and what's a real human. Or maybe all the exhibits are real people. And then it's closing time and all the visitors have gone home, they suddenly start moving about. Just thinking about it makes me wish it was closing time already and I was on my way home. Stepladder. Oh, that's a funny place for a little ladder. What is it? Is something wrong? No, it's just that in Japanese we have a totally different word for a ladder that folds in half like that. We do in English too, you know. It's a stepladder, or just steps. Be careful of making assumptions about other cultures, you know. That's how wars are started. I didn't realize stepladders were an international point of contention, but the writer makes an astute point. Is this an example of Western Sugigiri? I don't know what that is. You know, when an unscrupulous samurai randomly attacks a passerby to test his sword. I still don't know. But actually, a waxwork samurai would probably be hugely popular. Could you model it, do you think, Runo? Doing that Sugiri thing you mentioned? Well, I do have a sword, but I have no intention of testing how sharp it is on a human subject for now, that at least. I mean, it's not really a sword, that's like a kitchen knife. Okay, we just gotta investigate Mr. Sholmes. It's the great detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Mr. Sholmes has his own wax statue in here. Really? Unfortunately for Naruhodo, he doesn't have, like, this as a video game model. And, like, have him be part, like a character with, like, a rig, and the other ones being a background. Although this character right here looks kinda, like, popping out, but whatever. Well, he is world famous after all. He has an uncanny resemblance, isn't it? It makes my skin crawl to look at it. I know. But look, Runo, you can kick this early and he doesn't move a muscle. You can't go around kicking the exhibits, Iris. Wait. It just moved, I'm sure. And not just a little bit either. Really? Did it? Oh, look closely. There are beads of sweat on the face of this waxwork model. Shall we move on, Iris? Over there, look, there's a great murder scene to enjoy, much more appealing. My dear fellow, I take exception to your recoiling in such a manner as if you've seen something truly abhorrent. Mr. Sholmes. I knew it. Iris, what possessed you? I strictly forbid you from divulging my temporary waxwork secret to Mr. Naruhodo. Temporary waxwork? What do you mean? And that kick, could you not have exercised a little more restraint? You winded me. Maruno has something he needs to ask you. Ah, a question? And I thought you'd probably be getting bored too. So here we are. Well, I can't deny that your timing was impeccable. A mere 2 minutes more being stationary like that, and I would have gotten a blood clot. And my great brain, upon which all my success has been built, would have turned to wax. Thank goodness we arrived in time. Indeed, in many ways, the pair of you just saved the world from an unimaginable loss. Oh, Hurley, you do like to talk nonsense, don't you? He could know something, it's true, about Lord Van Zykes and what happened in the past to change him. Now that you're here, let's take our time. How can I be of assistance? For your luck, I'm suddenly quite taken with the idea of conversing. Oh well, actually, I'm in quite a hurry. If my eyes don't deceive me, I believe something is afoot within the walls of this very museum. A most fascinating case, if I'm not mistaken. Sure. Really? Moreover, this is gonna happen for some reason. I have a strong suspicion that it isn't related to the matter for which you've come to me now. But how could it be? We shall speak again presently, my dear fellow. But for now, I must return to my work. What? Back to being a temporary waxwork exhibit? Well, what is it you'd like to ask me then? Actually, it's about Lord Van Zykes. Our friend the Reaper. Mr. Reaper, how did you find him? Well, I trust. And so I filled Mr. Sholmes in about everything I learned. About Lord Van Zykes, about Professor Harebrain, and about the strange coincidence that they had been at the university together. So, I'm wondering what it was that happened to make Lord Van Zykes such a different person. I'm sure that you'd know, Hurley. You said there was something going on here in this exhibit hall before, that something was afoot, and that you believed it was related to what I wanted to ask you about. Mr. Sholmes. He suddenly clammed up. Well, it seems we've reached the unavoidable. Greetings. Hello, where'd she appear from? Surely this is not a character we've seen before. Her lips are... She doesn't have that point in her chin that, the person who murdered Wilson had. Now what's she wearing? Can she look any more mysterious? I hope you are appreciating my museum. Sorry, have we? Mr. Sholmes, do you know? Not again. My apologies, I am Esmeralda Tuspels. This is my museum of waxwork. What? You're the Madame Tuspels? Bien sûr. Though only 26 years young, I might add. Is that significant somehow? I'm a madame in name only. It's a certain je ne sais quoi. It's French, so I pronounced it completely wrong, by the way. I don't know how to pronounce anything French. Right. Je ne sais quoi. The S is probably silent at the end. The last few words, the last few letters on any French word are silent. Okay. Firstly, I must apologize for my waxworks, or rather, one waxwork in particular. That'll be Mr. Sholmes, then. I was led to believe he was a great detective, but he seems unable to settle. Next time you move from your designated exhibit, there will be toil and trouble. He sounds deadly serious. She sounds deadly serious. That's a problem. Wait, so they all actually are real. What? How am I supposed to ask Mr. Sholmes about Lord Van Zykes now? Let's not forget about what Hurley said before, about something being afoot, right here in the museum, I mean. Yes, I know, but I'm so curious, I want to know what's happening here. Haven't we got enough on our plate already? Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Tussbells? I did. I am the third generation of waxwork artisans, you know. Gosh. It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. Though that is, when she acquired the savoir-faire that leads to the astonishing life-likeness. And these waxworks really do look as though they're alive. In fact, they look more alive than Hurley. Hehehe. What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks were created in the presence of the real people in which they are modeled, in the hours immediately following their executions. That is the secret to the extraordinary life-likeness. That sounds terrifying. All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. To carry out one's trade for excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. Your right eye is peeking underneath the brim. My exhibitions are a reflection of society. I create only that which the public wishes to see. Why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying? Do not fear. Sorry. Oh, immediately following their executions. So these literally are the dead bodies. Waxed. Okay. I get it now. This room is the only one in the museum with such a macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians, something for every taste. I hope. It was Iris who dragged me straight in here, come to think of it. Sorry, perhaps I should have eased you into things. What's the situation with that? My temporary waxwork model? He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. What sort of proposal? My dear madame, what these sparse exhibits need. It is an edition of a world-famous great detective. Or words to that effect. Naturally, I am well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's great detective, actually. He's very specific about it. Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. How'd they do this French stuff when this was originally written in Japanese? And a distinction between talented and great, whatever. But sadly, we were unable to agree terms. Let me guess, someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price for his services. For a mere £500, I will dive into your cauldron of wax this very moment. Or words of that effect. Mr. Scholes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch. Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment due to unforeseen circumstances. So we came to the current arrangement instead. Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing though, does he? I would think not, but he was very insistent. I have a 50 shilling problem. That must be resolved by the morning. Or words to that effect. It's the pawnbroker, that's what it is. He must have something to redeem. Is the consulting detective work not going so well? I wonder, could I ask you something? Binsu? Just curious, is anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps? Whoever suggested such a thing to you? Oh, well, it was your temporary waxwork over there who mentioned it to me a little... Oh, he's disappeared. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade. Ah. There you are. Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working? Do you wish to be melted down? My dear Madame Tuspel, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. It's our ideas about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot instead. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police. Why ever not? She turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective, whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though please be aware that I insist upon payment in advance. Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain? That is the Tuspel special exhibit. There is an extra charge, do you see it? Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer, then, I presume. Which would be so kind as to draw the curtain, I wonder? Ah, absolutely none. There's nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madame. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? Ah. I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond there before the situation worsens. Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains, but only on a sukon. That you do the charge. What in the world? I must confess to peek behind the curtain earlier. The Tuspel special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somehow, surprisingly, the waxwork killer one you would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. He was once a juror. Well then, perhaps, Mr. Sholmes. That man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself. I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman, not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they're always distinguishable from real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in the special exhibit. Why? Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. Ah, she looks as pale as a candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Tuspels, have you agreed to my fee? You shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding hopelessly from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tuspels. The answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the 200 pounds is revealed by the public notice. Waxwork for sale. Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of 200 pounds. Good. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Ah. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the 200 pounds. It would appear that you twisted his gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of 200 pounds. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him that the exorbitant amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And as a result of the scene you can see before us, he collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in the special exhibit fetches a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands. Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly. What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief, such as the worn by policemen as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that the crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades in last year's policing awards. But next we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Ah, but your reaction only confirms my suspicion, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly provides whether or not this old man is waxwork is the obvious price tag. 3 pence. A tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks, riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant 200 pounds. The sort of plucky behavior that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madame? I do not. Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave and the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. This concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of the horrifying puzzle. It's one of the things where the real story is probably going to be a lot more interesting. I see I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley, you have. You've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up one point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo's 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So what would that mean that he's this... That means the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman, Ottermole. Sorry. It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. And it turned out the culprit was the policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottermole. Does that mean that's who the sinister-looking old man here is supposed to be? Indeed, it is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is 200 pounds a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages if that puts things in perspective. So it is quite a lot then. Is there anything else you wish to add? Before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous. The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so I think I might have to call on your assistance here, Iris, if that's alright, to make some minor corrections to the great detective's great deductions. Of course, that's alright. We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Tuspels vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Tuspels, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. I still have a hard time. It still always seems like maybe that Mr. Sholmes is always like intentionally messing up a little bit. Because he knows Ryan has an edit. So anyway. He definitely looked at that in that direction, it's true. I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks even for 200 pounds. Oh. She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would, but it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Excuse me, I have to go off this. Resuming. Well, anyway, I wonder if the 200 pounds could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. Just because. Waxwork for sale? Would anyone really buy models of mass murderers? I think I'd rather have 200 pounds in my pocket. Exactly, you could buy one of those brand new types of steam carriage. That's what I'd spend it on if I had it, no question. Oh, I'd buy all the herbs in the world. There must be another explanation for the money. We need to keep looking. Seems this well-dressed gentleman is alive after all, just not alive and kicking. And he's not a waxwork or a model of a mass murderer. I'm not sure I'd pay 200 pounds for him. I don't think the man's up for sale. Well, anyway, it was a silly place to put him. Other museum visitors could easily trip. I don't think the man was put there on purpose either. What's that note being pinned on the wall there? Doing. Ah yes, let's see. Dear Madame Tuspels, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is 200 pounds. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd of October. What? It's just the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note. Exactly.
Take that!
Significance of the 200 pounds is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness abducting a waxwork. Ah, 200 pounds is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary then, the 200 pounds you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Ah. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the 200 pounds. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes around. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. That's meta. Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard, we mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear, but in that case, what's Madame Tussbell's trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. Madame Tussbell has very long hair, doesn't she? Yes, but you couldn't tell looking at her from the front. You know, it looks rather like a whip, don't you think? Sort of whip that could have floored the gentleman with a single crack. That seems a little far-fetched, even for you, Runo. This is just Madame Tussbell's right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand, after all. Oh, but wait a minute. This is a left hand as well, look. Don't say such creepy things, Iris, please. Just a bad Photoshop, okay? It's just like 2 left feet. And it seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard. Oh, you mean... it's made of wax?
Take that!
Break! What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you... The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. Ought to be your right hand, but closer inspection reveals that, in fact, it's a left hand. Ah. And somehow masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madame. It's the hand of a waxwork model. Ah. Some of the visitors in my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that arm? Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir. No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. I'm afraid I had to teach the man a lesson. You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And as a result, the scene we see before us, he was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being, we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let's consider the problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is that the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we only deserve the handkerchief. According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign of other policemen that some crime is underway. Way of communicating with his colleague without revealing his identity, yes? It's a secret closely guarded by Scotland Yard that Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets is in any true detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Tuspel's reaction to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. There, it's like my controls weren't responding. Okay, it's a one-axis toggle here. I got just for the dialogue. A secret scarf sign to warn other agents of an ongoing crime. I know, it sounds so thrilling, doesn't it? Maybe I'll try to work it into next month's installment. But then the police's secret will be revealed to all of London's 6 million inhabitants. Well, they'll just have to come up with a new sign, I suppose. How does this 10-year-old manage to have such terrifying influence? Okay, obviously you gotta do the arm. What the? The man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Oh, well, that settles that then. Right, this isn't a real person at all. His entire arm being ripped off from the shoulder down. His arm's been... Of course, that ties in with what we just found out. Well, I guess we could say he's the wax statue she ripped the arm off of. It's not very exciting, but whatever, we'll just present it.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth, of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact, defying all odds, a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally, what other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor in the special exhibit, wasn't it? Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with the particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Ah, but your reaction only confirms my suspicion, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the price tag. The killer policeman called Ottermole, was it? Was he well known? It's all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. True pence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garridim's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200. Is this crusty old killer policeman Ottermole really? Perhaps we should have a good look around again and see if another idea crops up. £3? It's a far cry for £200, isn't it? For £3, you could buy it and put it on display in your room, Bruno. I think I'd rather not go to sleep being watched by an old man, if it's all the same to you. Price tag does stand out, doesn't it? I mean, you couldn't even buy the helmet on his head for that much money, I don't think. I wonder what the price tag's really for, then. I don't believe it. It's a secret sign that other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he was trying to go unnoticed. Yes, I did notice the foot tap. Ah, he must be a detective disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman. He doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about it, Iris. Look at this. The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. He seems too fast asleep, though. He's not tapping his foot consciously, then. So you mean... must be a twitch. Never mind that. The point is, waxworks don't tap their feet. I was gonna try to make some Nintendo pun, and I couldn't think of anything. Or Twitch. It would be Nintendo, it would be Amazon. Anyway, and look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we?
Take that!
Telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it, 12 Madame Tussbells. Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's this tag about showing a price of 3 pence? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you've observed the scarf tied around his arm. Does that strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway. Of course, because, as you know, there has been just such a criminal activity happening here. As you deduced from the very beginning, Detective. So, it would seem that we finally arrived at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. At Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction, the horrifying puzzle. Yeah, I didn't really figure out much, though. We figured out something, but you didn't solve where the waxwork is. But if I were to take a guess, it would be at the Great Exhibition. There are all sorts of people visit my museum here, men, women, young, and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all, but if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway, your great deduction was even more enchanting than I have been led to believe. Yeah, but you didn't figure out where it was. It was a pleasure, my dear madame, and he didn't figure out anything that she didn't already know. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I have no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork for the special display. If it was indeed genuinely abducted, yes, tragically, it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork. As in much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talents of a great detective can be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed that a waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then. So this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrific criminal, I suppose. Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. It could be odious men, but that would be rather lame and predictable. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago. I tried to remember if this was mentioned before. Because it sounds kind of familiar. Anyway. Yes, at exactly the time that Barak von Zykes graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying... So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life, as you surmised, it was the Professor case. Who was this Professor then? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London's Grundon lipped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Van Zykes? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. If I were to take a guess, it's the enemies of Van Zykes trying to remind him of the Professor case for some reason. They're going to use it to manipulate Van Zykes somehow. Anyway. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves to the country's administration. Members of the... Oh, wait, of course. That Professor Harebrain said. What Professor Harebrain said. Lord Van Zykes is from a family with noble blood. Oh gosh. It was the 5th victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint Van Zykes. Oh, okay, so it wasn't Barak's girlfriend, it was his dad. No, I don't believe it. Van Zykes. I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder. Okay, not dad, older brother. Ugh. The young Barak pursued a career as a prosecutor. And eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea Lord Van Zykes had such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter. For the time being, at least. After all, I have work to do. As the waxwork exhibit. I'm afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Well, none of these predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved you coming to visit me here. It's been too long, it really has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak. It's been 10 years. And here we are meeting in a prison of all places. I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Esman. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen. Right, he doesn't know who Esman really was. Tomorrow the court will decide. Yes. I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident, a terrible accident. He assured me he could prove it. I must warn you. Oh, I know, I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you? Yes. Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Barack, are you really? What? Never mind. I know that you have my best interest at heart. My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else. Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Barack. Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court. So I'm at the beginning of the trial, which means that's it.